RealAgriculture.com is proud to bring you coverage of Farm Progress 2013 from Decatur, Illinois.
We're joined by Mark Burns from CASE, and Mark, you're standing in front of the Patriot 4430 sprayer, and what we want to talk about is the new AIM Command Pro spray technology. Pretty interesting story we were talking about. Nozzle by nozzle control, gives you great coverage and really reduces overlap.
That's absolutely true. The AIM Command Pro is an evolution of our current AIM Command offering, which provides that constant droplet size because we can provide an even constant application rate with a consistent pressure over a wide speed range, where the AIM Command Pro takes that to the next level, as you mentioned, with individual nozzle control. So when we get into those areas that have already been sprayed, we can shut the boom off nozzle by nozzle as opposed to an entire boom section. So we're going to minimize the amount of over application that can occur and even result in some input cost savings.
Mark, the Command Pro system really helps, turn in those tight spots, right?
Well, in addition to the other features that we've discussed, the turn compensation piece of AIM Command Pro takes into account the different speeds of the boom as it goes through a turn or a contour. On a boom, as it's traveling, the only true speed and application spot that's correct is in the center of the vehicle. As the machine turns, that inside boom is going to be traveling slower or potentially even backwards, and then the outside boom, the further out we go, is going to be traveling significantly faster. And what happens along the way is on that inside boom, we're going to be over applying in areas where that boom is traveling slower, actually should be going backwards, and then under applying once we get further out. So you've got coverage issues because of not enough product being applied on the outside, and crop damage on the inside because too much product is being applied. This system is going to alter the pulse modulation of the solenoid and adjust that flow appropriately based on the position and speed of that boom during the turn. And really what we're looking at is the functions of the solenoid. This is what's going to be our product flow control, putting on that right amount of product for each acre regardless of the speed changes, and that really is what's going to happen in that turn compensation, is adjusting the pulse width modulation in that 10 hertz cycle, making sure that we're putting on the right amount of product. And as we go along the boom, you'll see each individual or 20-inch nozzle spacing has a solenoid. So we're controlling that down to that nozzle level, and that's where that swath control actually comes into play. For each of the boom sections, we do have a module that's placed on the boom, and it will control up to 9 nozzles and do the calculations for us. So if we have a boom section that's greater than 9 nozzles, you'll have a couple of those as well. And then when we actually get to the back of the machine, that's where the brains of the actual AIM Command Pro take place, where we're feeding all of our flow capabilities, all of our speed inputs, our GPS input, and that's what's going to do the calculations for us to make sure that each nozzle is performing correctly. Once we get to the back of the unit, this is where we can start looking at some of the other additional features that come into play with the AIM Command Pro. We do, in the display inside the cab, have the capability of setting up like soft boom sections, where in higher speed applications and dusty conditions, wheel track coverage can sometimes be an issue because of the dust particles being attached right to the spray and it never gets to its desired position. So we can adjust in banks of nozzles from 1 to several, where, say, behind the rear wheels here, these 3 nozzles, we can actually increase the flow rate to provide more volume of flow in this particular area to cover those hard to treat areas. Same thing we can do along the boom. If we get to an area alongside the fence row that needs additional coverage, is we can program that nozzle or the last 2 nozzles, for instance, where they're going to put more product on than what the rest of the boom is. It's going to average itself out. We're still going to put on the desired rate, just more product is going to be dedicated towards that desired area. And then I guess lastly, the capabilities of valve diagnostics. We can do some nozzle monitoring right from the display in the cab. It will tell us if we have issues with a solenoid, and then the ability through a key fob, a remote key fob, to come back out here and actually do nozzle calibration or nozzle checks one by one or section by section. So it's really going to minimize the amount of time and effort spent going back and forth from a cab to do basic calibration practices.